guys, welcome to Mud Road. I have a lot to talk about today, but I'm going to have to break it down into 2 or 3 videos, so I'll be posting videos throughout the weekend. This one is a reply to comments that I read over on Odyssey on another video, not one of my videos. There'll be a link to that video in the description. So let's get to that. This is more of a commentary-based video. I really think the information is important to share with you, so let's hope you enjoy it. Otherwise, I'll have more videos that are more newsworthy coming up later this weekend. So let's get going with that. All right, guys, so we're going to start with this video I found over on Odyssey, and it was down in the comment section. We're not going to play the video. The video is Putin vows retaliation for new Crimea bridge strikes. I trolled a couple of guys down in the comment section because what I saw, guys or girls, you never know, what they said in the comment section was just idiotic. And I want to get that up there for you. Let's get it now. So the first folio is CCCC. This SMO is not about demilitarizing or denazifying Nats for the YouTube. I didn't say the other word. After all, this is more about the de-Bidenification rights. An idiot and a half. Biden is a small pawn in a bigger game. Biden has nothing to do with this. And the fact that this individual thinks that it's about the Ukraine war is about Biden. I don't know. Again, what can you say to these people? There's no discussing anything when you're that stupid. And the war is about demilitarizing and denazifying Ukraine. Because when you do that, you destroy any ability of the West to destroy Russia. We've talked about this before in other videos, that the war is, I'm going to generalize it, the war is about unipolar, multipolar worlds. The war is about the West wanting total war of control, Western hegemony, about dividing and dissecting Russia and literally giving out parts of Russia to other nations to manage and control. The goal is the utter destruction of Russia. And to utterly destroy Russia, they tried to do it. It was a twofold, economically and militarily. And to utterly destroy Russia, Ukraine needed a military, and it needed the neo-fascist element that was pushing this forward. That is what the war is about. The fact that this idiot doesn't know that, it's beyond that. You get to the paragraph, and the paragraph conflicts again upon itself. And I want to touch on that really fast. The Kremlin leadership and Duma scum, obviously he's against them, still treat the West as partners instead of enemies. If the president was sincere about saving the Donbass Russians from genocide, he wouldn't have let them suffer for 8 years in favor of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Today, the new territories are suffering worse, shelling daily, so does the border. He is claiming that because of the Nord Stream 2, that Putin is in economic partnership with the West, and he cares more about the economic partnership of the West than he does with the people of the Donbass that were being shelled and killed for 8 years. 8 years ago, to go into Ukraine and hope that the Western nations wouldn't intervene. 8 years ago, had Russia done that and the West militarily intervened, very possibly they could have destroyed Russia at that time. The West, I think, had a military advantage then. Over the past 8 years, Putin has been building up the Russian military and the Russian economy. Understand, building up the Russian economy. Part of the war that the West had against Russia was two-pronged, economic and militarily. Over the last 8 years, Putin has built Russia up economically to the point that it can burden the weight of 11 rounds of sanction. 8 years ago, Russia would not have been able to do that. Further, over the past 8 years, Putin has strengthened the Russian military to the point that now that it is in gear, has outperformed the Western military capacity to wage war. Their strategic strategy has developed that it's put the NATO nations back to the drawing board where they have to rethink their military doctrine. This was not possible 8 years ago. I believe 14,000 innocent civilians died, or some more combatants or not, but 14,000 people died in the Donbass over the past 8 years. When you're a world leader, you're not a pousse. You have to make hard decisions. You have to let people die. And yes, Putin allowed 14,000 people to die over the past 8 years because he had to, because he had no other choice. Because had he prematurely gone into Ukraine to try to stop it, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people could have died. And Russia itself could have been destroyed and dissected and partitioned to the Western powers. It would have been stupid to try to do anything anytime sooner than the 8 years. And during those same 8 years, Putin has been trying to negotiate peace. There was a Minsk Accord. There was a peace agreement. Ukraine broke the peace agreement. Putin, for 8 years, has been trying to get the Western powers to help him put pressure on Ukraine to abide by the peace agreement and end the shelling of the Donbass. And remember, Putin does push for peace. He would rather have peace than death. I believe that. When the war started, within the first 2-3 months, Russia went in a little bit. They weren't ready quite to go in, but they did. They did a little shock and awe. They were pressuring Kyiv. They drove Ukraine to the negotiating table, and it looked like we had peace. We had peace, and it was about to end the war. It was then that Boris Johnson flew in from the UK, went and talked to Zelensky and told him what time of day it was. He told him, you will not negotiate peace. You will continue this war. We did not pump all this money into Ukraine or you, so you can negotiate peace this early into the conflict. But Putin, for 8 years, was pushing for peace. Initially, when the war started, Putin had a generous peace agreement on the table, and the war could have stopped. This individual makes it think, or he believes, or she believes, that Putin simply allowed people to die for 8 years. It's complex. It's convoluted. It has different aspects to it. It requires critical thinking. You cannot just make a stupid comment like that and believe it's true. Now, look at what they also go on to say. The president is powerless against the clans, otherwise he wouldn't have let the defense ministry drag on the SMO, letting both civilians and soldiers die senselessly. The bottom line is about elite self-interest above the people. The president's words have lost our credibility. So in the first part of the sentence, he claimed that the Kremlin leadership, Putin, is in partnership with the West, and that he allowed people to die for 8 years. So he says, basically saying Putin is a puppet of the West, and that's why he didn't go to war for 8 years. And the second part of the sentence, Putin is a puppet of the military defense industry, I guess in Russia, and the elitists, and that's why he is at war and is allowing the war to drag on. So, is he a puppet of the West, not wanting war, or is he a puppet of the East, wanting war? You conflict against yourself. And that the MSO, the civilian leadership, this is just hogwash. Remember, the elites in Russia have lost millions, if not billions, of dollars because of the sanctions and the confiscation of their goods because of the war. They ain't happy about this. But Putin has the support of the people. They do not control him, and he's not a puppet of them. Also, the concept that Putin is powerless because he doesn't end the war. You're a numbnut. There's no brain cells in your mind. If the war was to end today, if Russia was to push for the peace, if Russia was to withdraw from Ukraine, Russia would lose the war. If Russia loses the war, it means Russia will sink back into the dark ages, back to the times of Boris Johnson. Gorbachev and Yeltsin. These mofos that sold out Russia and who were willing to enrich themselves at the expense of their people. Putin hasn't done that. Yes, Putin has gotten himself filthy rich, but not at the expense of his people. That takes me into the next sentence. The next stupid mofo here. Retaliation on himself. Referring to the title, Putin vows retaliation for new Crimea bridge strikes. Retaliation on himself for allowing NATO weapons into Ukraine. This is the stupidest comment I've ever heard in my life. Tomorrow I'll hear another one. Retaliation on himself for allowing NATO weapons into Ukraine. What was Putin supposed to do? Sink American military convoys in the Atlantic and start World War III? What was he supposed to attack weapon staging areas in Poland, Germany, and Britain, France, and throughout NATO and the nations? Was he supposed to bomb them? Was Putin supposed to attack NATO nations in NATO to keep the weapons from getting into Ukraine? Was Putin supposed to start World War III? Start World War III, not allowing NATO weapons in Ukraine. How stupid can you be? He had to allow the weapons into Ukraine. And once they got into Ukraine, he has been attacking those ammunition depots. Not all of them. Remember the other guy here, demilitarizing. He doesn't believe that's part of the cause, but it is. Some of those weapons had to be allowed to get into the hands of the Ukrainian military because Putin wanted that military to come up to the front lines where he could destroy it. So he's done both. Once the weapons got into Ukraine, he's destroyed some of it, and actually about as much as he can. Others have gone to the front line, and he's destroyed those weapons along with the military capacity. He's killed soldiers from Ukraine. So this is just dumb. Or not covering the Donetsk kid. Now, propaganda here. Throws in kids when they try to sentimize it like this. It's you can tell it's propaganda. And not covering Donetsk kids. There's people there, not just kids, with their defense for over a year. There are defenses protecting Donetsk. There could always be more, so I won't take that away. The air defenses are only so capable against artillery fire. They maybe have some ability to stop artillery shells, but that is a lot tougher. There are air defenses there to stop missiles. I do wish they had more, but I don't know how accurate your comment in here is. I think it's a propaganda comment because you add kids to it right there. You said kids, trying to make people, oh, the kids. When people do that, it's propaganda. And you put a little clown face. Again, propaganda. I won't be surprised if he blames Wagner Patriots for attacks before Ukraine. I don't know what that means. He's calling the Wagners or Patriots because of the recent coup. So obviously he's anti-Putin and he's using sentiments. Again, so when you use words like that, Wagner Patriots, he's trying to instill some propaganda agenda. Again, I don't even know what he means by the line. Has his daughter sold her home in London yet? Yes, Putin isn't some angel with a halo and little wings. Putin has played the game. If you're going to be the president of Russia, you probably crushed a few skulls on the way up to the top. And I'm pretty sure Putin did that. You played the game, you greased the skids, you gave jobs to this person, to that person, and you enriched yourself. Putin is not like Clinton, Obama, the Bushes, or litany of Western leaders who have enriched themselves while in power and allowed their nations to degrade and their people to fall into poverty. He has given the Russian people hope. He has rebuilt Russia into a world power. Russia, again, is a superpower. I'm probably one of the first people to say that recently, and I believe more and more people are going to say that. Yes, they're a superpower. Russia has burdened the weight of the economic powers of the world. These 11 or more rounds of sanctions that the richest nations in the world has levied on Russia, Russia has been able to overcome it, to get it off its shoulder and move forward. Russia has fought against the military industrial capacity of the entire world, and they have come out victorious. Russia is a superpower. You heard it from me first in a long time. So, yes, his daughter probably hasn't sold her house in London. I'm not going to say, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Putin is an angel. He has gotten wealthy, but so have the Russian people, so has the Russian nation, so has the economy, and the military has become powerful because of Putin. A Russian can go to work and feel that he can do something with his effort, and he can feel that he has a future and be proud of his leader, proud of his nation, and proud of himself.